These days, nearly everyone uses Instagram, whether they have a large following or just a small circle of friends. The platform has over 1 billion active users, which is an astonishing number when you think about it. Personally, I had around 300 followers at the time of this incident, which was considered decent for someone like me living in a small rural town. In such places, most people only really know others from their immediate community. One evening, while I was watching a movie, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from Instagram, letting me know that a girl named Holly had started following me. Out of curiosity, I opened the app and checked her profile. What I found caught me off guard. She was stunning, long blonde hair, a perfect smile, and the kind of looks you'd expect from someone who could easily be an influencer. Her profile showed she had around 5,000 followers and roughly 50 posts. At first, I was skeptical. Whenever someone with a big following follows me, I make it a point to check if the profile seems legitimate. But Holly's account checked all the boxes for authenticity. The posts were spaced out realistically over time, each one garnering hundreds of likes and plenty of comments, mostly from guys leaving hearts and other emojis. It all seemed genuine. As I was scrolling through her pictures, before I even decided to follow her back, I received a direct message from her. It said something along the lines of, "Hey, I don't usually do this, but I think you're really cute." I couldn't believe it at first, not to sound arrogant, but I've been told I'm pretty good looking and fit, and I've had a few girls DM me before. Still, it's not every day that someone like Holly reaches out to you out of the blue. I decided to follow her back and replied with a simple message saying I thought she was cute too. From there, we started chatting, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. We talked about fitness, shared a few details about our lives, and even discovered that we attended nearby high schools. Before long, she gave me her number, and we decided to meet up the following night. Friday, at a bar called Lucky's, which is popular in our area. Friday night came, and I was both nervous and excited. I had never gone on a date with someone I met solely through Instagram, but this girl was drop-dead gorgeous, and the idea of meeting her in person was thrilling. I got ready and drove to Lucky's, parking my car in the lot and waiting for her text or call to let me know she'd arrived. After a short wait, I got a text from her, but it wasn't what I expected. She said her car had broken down and asked if I could pick her up. Confused, I reread the message to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding it. I tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. Instead, she texted back, giving me a detailed description of her location and asking for help. I was hesitant, so I double-checked her Instagram profile one more time. Everything still looked legitimate. The comments, the tagged photos, the followers, it all added up. I convinced myself that this wasn't a scam and decided to go help her. I texted her that I was on my way and drove toward the spot she described. The road she directed me to was unsettling. It was a quiet, narrow street bordered by thick woods on both sides. Eventually, I spotted a black Nissan Altima pulled over on the side of the road, its hood propped open. That had to be her car. I parked across the road, got out, and approached the vehicle. Right away, something felt off. The car's windows were heavily tinted, making it impossible to see inside. I tapped lightly on the window, but no one responded. Walking around to the front, I checked the engine compartment but saw no signs that anyone had tried to fix anything. Frustrated and a bit uneasy, I texted her, "Where are you? I'm about to leave." As I circled back to the driver's side, I noticed something chilling. The driver's window, which had been completely shut moments ago, was now slightly cracked open. My heart started racing. I called out, "Holly," hoping for some kind of explanation, but I got no response. I moved closer, trying to peer inside, when suddenly, a hand reached out from the slightly opened window. It wasn't Holly's hand. It was unmistakably a man's hand. He gestured for me to come closer, curling his index finger in a beckoning motion. My stomach dropped. Realizing the danger, I stammered, "Get lost," then bolted back to my car. Adrenaline pumping, I jumped into the driver's seat, locked the doors, and sped away. As I drove, I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone following me. Then I saw it, a car without its headlights on, trailing me at a distance. My panic escalated. Thinking quickly, I turned off my own headlights and began making random turns in an attempt to lose my pursuer. After several tense minutes of zigzagging through the back roads, the car was no longer behind me. When I finally got home, I checked Instagram, only to discover that Holly's profile had already blocked me. Later, I found out that the account had been hacked by someone, a man who used her photos to lure unsuspecting people into traps. I wasn't his only victim, but I count myself incredibly lucky to have escaped. To this day, I think about how that night could have ended differently. It's a reminder to always trust your instincts and be cautious, even when everything seems legitimate on the surface. Not everyone might be as fortunate as I was. I had an Instagram account with about 1,100 followers, which I kept public at the time. This meant anyone could check out my pictures, like them, and even leave comments. Naturally, I'd get attention from people I didn't know, but there was one man who stood out from the rest. It started when he commented on a beach picture I posted with one of my friends. In the photo, I was wearing a swimsuit, and it had attracted around 11 comments in total. Among them, his stood out. It was just 3 flame emojis. Curious, I clicked on his profile. His account was strange, to say the least. He only had 3 photos, all selfies, and he looked like he was in his 40s or 50s. He had 80 followers and followed over 200 people, including me. Something about his profile didn't sit right, but I brushed it off. Encounters like this weren't uncommon when you had a public profile. At first, it seemed harmless, but after that initial comment, the man began leaving comments on every single new photo I posted. One of his comments simply said, "hot," which felt more intrusive than the others. Then, a few days later, he crossed another line. Instead of commenting, he sent me a direct message. The message read, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you that you're beautiful, even though I'm like 30 years older than you, lol." Against my better judgment, I replied with, "Lol, thanks." Looking back, I'm surprised I even responded. Most people in my situation would have ignored it altogether. But that one reply opened the floodgates. He quickly messaged back, "I would kill to meet a girl like you." This comment unsettled me, and I replied 10 minutes later with a short, "Thanks," hoping he'd take the hint and stop messaging. Instead, he sent another message. "Maybe one day I'll meet you. Haha lol." This time, I didn't reply. The entire interaction was making me feel uneasy. Still, I didn't block him right away. I rationalized it, thinking, why get rid of a free follow and some extra likes? For a while, I didn't hear from him. But after I posted a new photo, a picture of me and my sister, Carol, in front of our house, he reappeared. His comment this time read, "You and your sister are so cute." This was the breaking point. It felt far too invasive. I deleted the comment and immediately blocked his account. That same day, later in the evening, Carol and I were home alone. I was in the bathroom doing my nails, getting ready to go out. From the window, I noticed an unfamiliar car pull up in front of our house. The bush separating our yard from the neighbors blocked most of the car, but I could see enough to tell it wasn't someone we knew. The headlights turned off, but no one got out. Our street is a dead end, so we rarely get random cars passing through. I found it strange and closed the blinds, not wanting to be visible to whoever was out there. Carol was in her room on her laptop, so I didn't bother her. When the time came for me to leave, I grabbed my keys and headed to my car. As I passed the mystery car, I noticed it was a black Maxima with heavily tinted windows, making it impossible to see inside. I felt uneasy but brushed it off. I got into my car, did a 3-point turn, and drove down the street toward the main road. The whole time, I couldn't shake the strange feeling about that car. I went to a gathering at a friend's house. Not quite a party, but enough for there to be drinks. I stopped drinking early since I'd be driving home. I'll admit though, I was still tipsy when I got back in my car. It was only a 5-minute drive, and I just wanted to get home and crawl into bed. When I pulled onto my street, my heart sank. The Maxima was still there, parked in the exact same spot. I drove past it slowly, trying to see inside, but it was no use. The windows were still pitch black. After parking in my driveway, I sat in my car for a moment, texting a few friends to let them know I'd made it home safely. Then I stepped out, eyeing the Maxima nervously as I made my way to the front door. As I reached the door, my keys slipped from my hand and landed on the doormat. For some reason, I felt too scared to bend down and pick them up. Instead, I rang the doorbell repeatedly, hoping Carol would come let me in. But she didn't answer. Finally, I forced myself to kneel down and grab the keys. I unlocked the door, stepped inside quickly, and locked it behind me, taking one last glance at the Maxima before shutting the door. It was past midnight, but Carol was usually up late, so I went upstairs to check on her. Her bedroom door was wide open, but the lights were off. I assumed she had gone out, which was unusual for her. As I entered her room, I heard a faint noise that took me a moment to recognize. It was a whisper. My heart pounded as I realized the whispering was coming from her closet. Slowly, I approached and saw her eyes peeking through a crack in the door. She was crying and visibly shaken. I whispered, "What's going on?" But she didn't respond. Instead, she put a finger to her lips, signaling me to stay quiet. I gently tugged her arm, pulling her out of the closet. As I pushed the closet door shut, the room came into full view, and that's when I saw him. A man was standing in the center of Carol's room. My mind raced as I tried to comprehend what I was seeing. I couldn't tell if he was facing us, but it didn't matter. Both Carol and I screamed and bolted down the stairs together. We ran to my car, and I managed to lock the doors just as the man reached it and tried the handle. He began bashing on the window with his shoulder as Carol screamed hysterically. Through the chaos, I realized it was the same man who had been stalking me on Instagram. Desperate, I honked the horn repeatedly, hoping to draw attention from the neighbors. It must have worked because he stopped and ran back to the Maxima. He sped off down another street, and we never saw him again. Once he was gone, we returned to the house and called our parents and the police. After investigating, the police found out he had climbed onto the awning, used a ladder, and broken in through an upstairs window. I explained to them how he had stalked me on Instagram and likely figured out our address from the photo I posted with Carol. Unfortunately, when I went to show the police his profile, it was gone. The blocked accounts section was empty, meaning he had already deleted his account. Since I couldn't remember his username, there was little the police could do. The experience left me shaken. I set my Instagram to private and now only accept follow requests from people I know personally. I'm also much more cautious about the kinds of photos I post and what details I reveal. The whole ordeal taught me a harsh lesson about online safety, and I can only hope others will learn from my mistake. I came across something recently that has been seriously freaking me out. Before I dive into the discovery, let me give you some backstory to help explain why it's so disturbing. For the past few weeks, I've been hearing a strange noise while I'm either trying to sleep in my bed or just doing something in my room with the light on at night. It's hard to explain, but it's a faint tapping sound, though it doesn't really feel like a tap. It's more like something lightly scraping or pressing against the window for a brief moment. At first, I figured it was probably bugs flying into the glass, but then it started happening multiple times a week, at least 2 or 3 times. That's when I started getting freaked out and decided to tell my dad about it. He wasn't concerned and just told me it was nothing, probably just bugs, like I initially thought. After a few nights of peace, I received a text from a guy I used to have a class with. He wasn't really a friend, just an acquaintance, but somehow he had gotten my phone number. His message started with, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we used to have class together. I wanted to let you know about something I found. If you're unaware of it, it's pretty disturbing." Attached to the message was a link. I clicked on it, and it took me to an Instagram page titled JP Unofficial. At first, I didn't think much of it, but then I noticed that the profile picture was of me. There were 45 pictures uploaded to the account, all of which were of me, and not the pictures I had taken myself. These were candid shots that I had never seen before. Some were of me at the beach, some in my car, but then it started getting creepier. The newer pictures were taken in my backyard, and the most recent ones were the worst. These photos were of me in my room, taken from outside my window. Some showed me sitting on my bed doing homework or texting, while others were of me standing. There was even one of me in my underwear. I felt absolutely sick to my stomach. I was on the verge of crying and throwing up. Every single picture had at least 2 or 3 likes, and some had comments that were even more disturbing. Instead of people calling out the creepiness, there were comments encouraging it, like, "Go for it, hot," or "I'd do anything to get my hands on her." The captions were even worse. Things like, "The love of my life," "She went to the beach today," or "I just like to watch her." I could barely hold it together. My hands were shaking, and a tear rolled down my face as I read through it all. Then, at that exact moment, I heard it again, the scrape or tap at the window. Suddenly, everything clicked. I realized what was happening. My mind was racing, and I snapped. I screamed louder than I ever had before, and my dad came rushing in, concerned. He asked me what was wrong, and I showed him the Instagram page. I explained the strange noises at the window, though honestly, I was so shaken I could barely get the words out. My dad's expression went from concern to horrified, and then to absolute anger. He stormed outside, yelling and making a scene, looking for the person who was stalking me. After a while, he came back inside and called the police. I gave the police the Instagram account information and requested they trace it as soon as possible. Law enforcement put in a request to Instagram, and though by the time the request was received, the account had been deleted, Instagram was still able to recover the data. They traced the usage to an old iPod Touch. Unfortunately, the device was untraceable. It either had been destroyed or had its Wi-Fi permanently turned off. Seeing how badly shaken I was, my dad decided that we should move out of the house within the month. Luckily, there haven't been any more strange noises since that night, but I've been extra cautious. I keep my blinds shut 24/7 now, and I'm always making sure no one is tailing me when I'm driving. Looking back, I can't stress enough how important it is to keep your Instagram account private. Always be aware of your surroundings, and never let your guard down. The experience has left me paranoid, but it also serves as a reminder of how dangerous it can be to share too much online.